Welcome back to the Purpose Producer Podcast. I'm your host, Georgia Dawkins. And yes, this is still season 4 of the Purpose Producer. I'm going to say it every time because I'm excited. All right. I'm excited about this platform and I'm excited about today's guest. This is someone who held space for me on their platform, held space for me in my career and my queer story. All right. So today we're talking to one of my new favorite people, Ashley Harris, who is the founder of the Queerly Blax podcast. You can also watch that on YouTube. Ashley, welcome to the Purpose Producer.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
All right, Ashley, we got to jump to the first question out the gate. I ask every new guest on the Purpose Producer this question, and that is, what makes you a purpose producer? The definition of a purpose producer is someone who's using his or her gifts to help others reach their destiny. So who are you and what makes you a purpose producer?
Yeah, that's a great question. First, of course, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. You're definitely one of my new favorites too. We had a great conversation and definitely love what you're doing. So shout out to you. Purpose producer, I think that's loaded for me just because it kind of goes back to just like, the beginning of the kind of the first time that I can think about doing something for a reason. And I will go back to like going to college and deciding to have a major in finance with the purpose of like, I need to get a good job. Being in finance pays good. So I can, have one job and not have to work 3 jobs like my mom did, So I think going back as early as that. And then now it looks a little different after being in, a career for a while and just thinking about my whole self. You kind of start getting a little older and you start thinking about the rest of yourself outside of money and accomplishments in that way. And tapping into the part of me that is a queer Black woman, that is marginalized in a lot of ways, does have my story told by other people, and not having a full representation of what it means to be queer and Black. And so now doing the Queerly Blax Show and creating that platform and just kind of expanding it, I think it's kind of taken it's got its own legs and has become just like a place for people to really find someone that they can relate to, just to have a place where everybody who is queer and Black can say, yeah, man, I relate to that person, and to show the diversity within us, to show that like, we're not even all the same, just because we have those titles or those labels, so to speak, we're all different. We're a melting pot of different people that create this beautiful community, but we're all different. So my purpose today is really just pushing Black queerness forward in a positive way, showing positive examples, kind of trying to move to highlight those stories and those people that really are pushing the culture forward and making us look good.
Look, I'm so grateful for your platform. I'm definitely someone who, once I discovered what you were doing, I started binging the show and I started to see a lot more of myself. I tell people like my coming out story, like it took me a while to come out. It took me even longer to come into community.
Yeah.
Because they're for so long, like for me in particular, like I really judged myself and started to embody the things that people hate about Black queer women, educated women. I started to wear those things. And so it was coming into community that really freed me to go, oh no, there's space for me, and that's definitely what I see on your show. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the show for sure is that was the goal. That's definitely one of the objectives of the show. I think that even for a lot of us, we come from families where we're the only queer person, right? So all of the things that we're going to assign ourselves for the most part, especially in those earlier years, is not positive a lot of times until we become older and start to accept ourselves and start to see more visions of ourselves, start to see other people that like, oh, okay, this isn't all bad. I'm not doomed. I'm not, going to be, the black sheep for the rest of my life. Like there are other people who have success and are just happen to be queer, but for so long, it's such a big part of who we are. And, to be able to assign positive things to it and be able to say, okay, you know what? Despite what other people have made me feel about myself, I'm going to go and dissect what I know to be true about me, which is that I'm a great person. Like, I'm a dope ass person at the end of the day. And this part of me who I sleep with doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I'm just amazing. you know?
I think it's because people limit it to who you sleep with and not
Mm-hmm.
who builds you up, who
Mm-hmm.
holds you up when you're having a tough day, who sees you fully, who can you be yourself completely around. So being in a relationship with anybody of any sex is more than physical intimacy. So much more than
Yeah.
that.
It's 100% more than that. And I think that's something that the show kind of highlights, is that, like, we talk about how people show up at work, how you show up in, for your family, in your career, how you show up, when you're trying to build a family for yourself, when you're trying to just do life. We go to Target, we go to sleep, we buy houses, we buy cars, we function like normal individuals. There's nothing different about us. But the imagery that you see a lot of times on shows or places where they choose to put us in the front, it's not positive. A lot of times it's usually very salacious. It's the the prostitute in the in the neighborhood, or it's the cousin that never comes around and has this promiscuous lifestyle. It's always this really negative thing. And I think obviously there are great creators that are doing a lot of the work to make it different. Some of my favorite shows, obviously you have Lena Waithe, who's a amazing creator in the space. You have, even now I'm watching Harlem again, season 2. There's great characters on that show showing different things, and the list goes on, of course. But it's just great to see different imagery of who we are, and to start to see like the full person, the full embodiment of what it means to be queer. Because it's really not about, who you sleep. It's really not about that. Who you sleep with is not what it's about
at all. Look, and I feel like what I get from Queerly Black is Black love. And it's something like when we all kind of have seen Black Love on OWN and that docu-series of all these Black couples of different backgrounds. And, it's beautiful, but I didn't see me. I didn't see my type of relationship. And I feel like you're right, that has been true in media. I can remember before L Word had more than one Black person or two Black people at a time, that I was watching Between Women on YouTube. I don't know if you remember that, but that was a web series for y'all who need some media history. A web series based in Atlanta that was written by two queer Black women who put this amazing drama-filled storyline together. Like, no drama left behind. But it was one of the first spaces where I started to see Black women in relationship, Black women who were successful financially and not the black sheep of their family.
No, it's true. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of the L Word, Gen Q, all the first seasons. I love the L Word. But I do think that you can pick pieces of yourselves out of all those characters, but no one truly is like it. The essence of the Blackness, right, is missing from those characters, right? Because the way that we show up and relate to our families and our friends is not the same, right? And then Tasha comes along, right? And then Tasha has, who I love, and I was like, I don't know if I hope I'm not spoiling it for people who haven't seen Gen Q. When she came back,
y'all
I lost my mind, like, because I had kept saying, I was like, man, like, they bringing all these characters back, man, where Tasha at? I love Tasha. So when I seen her, I had to rewind it, because I just couldn't believe that. I felt like I personally manifested it. I was like, I feel like I had something to do with this. But when she came along and she, had her military story and everything like that, but even just the level of reserve that she had about being open, aside from the military, right? Like, she just had this reserve that we all can relate to as Black people, because we're just not that bold with it, right? Like, we're just not, like, there's this, like, all right, like, y'all get it. Y'all see
we're
what I'm
still kind of walking the line.
Yeah, we didn't, like, but everyone else was like very like, no, this is who I am. I'm queer. You gotta accept it. Get over it. And her was like, like, let's just relax on that. So I think it's just different. The way that we are, the way we show up in the world is very, very different. And so that's why, highlighting black queerness is so critical for me, because obviously we can just talk about being queer all day, but I think there's something very specific about being Black and queer that we need to dissect.
Yeah, and I remember when I was on your show, thank you so much for having me once again. Y'all go check out that
Absolutely.
episode, okay? Because I was really
Yes.
open. You really
Yes.
opened me
Very
up.
open.
But we were talking about other images of Black queer women in the media, and Queen Latifah came up. And I
Mm-hmm.
ain't outing nobody or nothing, because I think Sis has outed herself in very many
Yeah.
different ways, but she's never had to come out. She's never had to say,
Yes.
I am a queer Black woman. Y'all embrace me. The queer community just embraces her because she's just who she is.
Because we
She
get
is
it.
a beautiful Black woman who, in some cases, is unclockable, but
Yeah.
totally clockable at the same time. Like, we clocked this on Cleo. We clocked this on
Yeah.
Set It Off.
Definitely. Definitely. But her whole aura, like, I think the thing about it is, and the reason why when like we don't, she never has to say it.
No,
We know, right?
we
It's
know, and we
other
love you.
people who want that. Like, she got to say it. She don't got to say that, because what's known is what's understood don't have to be said, right? She don't have to be like, I'm gay, right? Like, we don't need that. Just like a lot of us in our families don't have to say it to our families either. They be like, well, girl, I already knew that. What's for dinner? Because they know. We don't gotta say it. A lot of times you don't have to say it. Now, people that want to be in denial, live in their own space, they gotta say it. But I also think that generationally, there's a difference, right? So Queen Latifah is, I think, in her 50s, right? Like, she's she's a little older, and I think from a generation perspective, regardless of how obvious it seems, there's just not that much forwardness. Because even the Brat is a great example. People have been saying the Brat was gay since she was 18 years old, right? But not until she fell in love with this person who made her fully accept and step into that part of herself did she ever actually say anything about it, right? Like, did she ever actually feel comfortable going out and being like, yes, I'm gay, this is my person? She's been with women before, she's had relationships, but this person, she came into her full sexuality and decided, you know what, forget that, I'm not gonna lose out on this because I don't want to be open about this part of myself, and so I think that's kind of where it tends to happen for a lot of people. Because to your point about Queen Latifah, when she was on the BET Awards and got that award, and at the end she thanks her I'll just call her baby mama for the sake of conversation, but she thanked her the way she thanked her. We know what's up.
We know what's up.
We know what's up. She don't gotta say that's my beautiful partner in life. My, like, you ain't gotta do it. You know what I'm saying? Y'all show her some love. We don't need that. We know what's up. And so I think that just generationally, they didn't even feel the pressure to do that, and they still don't. They're like, what I got to tell y'all anything for? I think millennials and below are like, oh man, I gotta have such and such conversation. Oh, I gotta, we feel that pressure to fully be open about every part of ourselves, for whatever the societal pressure that comes from. But we live in that space, but I think older generations just don't subscribe to that. And honestly, I think that we should go back to some of that, like a little more discretion. Like, let's just, like, not that it has to relate specifically to queerness or, anything like that, but just in general, right? Social media makes us feel like you got to just tell all your business, and you just don't. Like, some stuff just don't have to be up there.
Some people just need a journal, and that's just
facts. You need a diary with a lock on it. Just get the old school joint, put a lock on your
Lisa Frank composition book. Come on, like put that away.
If your girlfriend is tripping and you want to argue, if you gotta
no more subliminal messages.
Put the meme in your notebook, print it out, put it in your notebook, put the lock back on the joint, and like keep it moving. So yeah.
Look, you also held space on your show for two other Black women who were pretty, I would say, polarizing, well-known queer Black women. So Niecy Nash Betts and Jessica Betts were guests that you had on your show, and I think them living loud and proud the way they are is giving permission to another generation of Black queer women to live loud and proud. Like, what was your experience in like getting them on the show, and what did you learn about them?
First of all, I think Niecy Nash shocked the whole world with that one, right? Like, when she came out, and not that she didn't come out in a relationship, she was like, I got married. Like, she skipped over the whole part of like, I don't date, I'm not with a man. I'm like, she was like, I'm married. But I love that so much because, again, going back to discretion in her age, right? Like, she don't gotta do that. She don't feel the need to keep us updated on her love life because it ain't our business, right? I think having them on the show was obviously an honor. And when I remember talking about the show, and my wife asked me, like, you know, if you could have anybody like on your show, like, who's your dream list? And I was like, Niecy Nash, of course, right? And so I think the timing, I think it was a bit of timing and just kind of divine order that they came. But I reached out to both of them, and they got back, their publicist got back to me, and we just, you know, we set it up. At the time, Jessica was had a video coming out, a song coming out, We Drip. And so we talked, you know, we just talked about that. But I was blown away because, you know, you think about, this is one of those things where you're like, you know, you building this little platform, you know, I got my little podcast, you know, I'm like, oh, you know, I want to get guests, whatever. You try to, you know, tailor your expectations. And when they got back to me and just how open they were and how much love they showed, I was actually originally interviewing Jessica for like the first, you know, if I don't know if you saw the whole episode, I was interviewing her for like the first 15, 20 minutes. And then Niecy comes out the back and just sits down. I was like,
so you weren't expecting her?
No, I was interviewing Jessica.
You handled that like a boss, though.
Listen,
like,
inside,
you were so smooth with it. Like,
inside, I was losing my mind. But then, like, I was like, all right, cool. Like, let me like recompose myself. And now, like, they're both here, so like, let me try to, you know, pivot to like make this about them. But it was an amazing experience
because you captured them at home in their environment, not on a, you know, talk show set or like a red carpet, but they at home being them, you know, and you got to have a lens inside their world. That was dope.
Yeah, no, it was great. I was definitely honored and felt, you know, I was just blessed, you know, it was just a blessing that they, you know, came on and showed. I think what I learned is, one, that they're just super dope people. The way that you see them is the way that they are. It wasn't no pretentiousness. It wasn't no, don't ask this, don't ask that. They were very open. Very, you know, you see the episode, Jessica was very open about her story. And I think that's the point, is that like, all of us, no matter how big or small or whatever our platforms are, wherever you live or whatever you're doing, whoever you're with, we all go through similar things. You know, her story looked a lot like other people. She talked about her grandma being like, okay, you over here doing this stuff with these women. A lot of us have heard that, you know, a lot of us have dealt with that. And just to see that, like, for me, what it shows is that, and I hope people pick this up, is that you can have all of these struggles, you can have all of these things that you battle with, but you can still be successful. They don't have to be the reason that you don't succeed or the reason why you can't accomplish things. You can push through those things. You can continue to work on yourself, continue to grow, and still get success, you know? So I hope that's what people get from that, is that you don't have to be perfect.
I love that you have couples on your show. I think it says so much about it speaks volumes to the community, because in a lot of cases, you know, many of us feel like we don't deserve love, depending on where you are in your coming out or inviting in. You feel like you don't deserve love because, you know, you've probably grown up in the church where people, you know, condemn you and to eternal damnation and, you know, hell, basically. And so to actually find love, to find unconditional love, can be a very powerful thing and very transformative. So I love that you hold space for couples. And I absolutely love that you produced this show with your wife. Yeah. Tell me about your love story and how y'all came to meet.
My love story. Okay.
Yes, tell me.
My love story. Yes. So we met in college. We met literally the first day that we got to Howard HU.
All right. That's enough. That's enough.
We met the first day, and we were we were on the yard just chilling, and that was like we literally met the very first day. We lived in the same dorm and like just were friends for like months. You know, you get to college, you're just hanging out, you're whatever, and then, you know, one thing leads to another, and here we are 15 years later. And here we are 15 years later to another. Then, you know, here we are. But I think that our love story, definitely we were you know, friends first. And then, you know, I think that just had a mutual interest in each other beyond that, and just decided, like, you know, let's give it a try. There was some fear because we were friends, like truly friends. And, you know, I think whenever you have that moment of like, okay, I think there's more here, but I don't want to lose my friend. You kind of battle with like, do we do this? But I think that we felt like our friendship was strong enough to be able to sustain, even if from a relationship perspective, we didn't make it. But yeah, so we got together and we did college together. She went to law school. We were long distance for 2 years. So we were together did long distance for 2 years, and now, back together in LA. But I think that that journey, we've both been a lot of different people. I would say going long distance for 2 years and struggling through that period of time, the compromises that you have to make in the character, the maturity that you have to build, going through something like that after being together literally every single day. Right. So there's this demand of time like that you don't really have, and we were on 2 different time zones. I always highlight that for people.
That's
because
love. Okay.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
across time zones and many years of transformation. Like,
yeah,
ooh, it
so
gotta be unconditional.
Yeah, for sure. I think I highlight that because I think it was probably one of the most pivotal parts of our relationship. So just creating different parameters around what that looked like, and then now, back together and just continuing to move forward. That's
family.
Got a whole family. We got
now.
a son, married 6 years ago. When we just were, for us, the whole marriage thing was like, we knew we were together, like we locked in, but for us, it was really important to finish school, kind of get established as people without the pressure of like what it means to be married. And then, prior to that, we couldn't even get married until, what was it, 2015. So it was just like, it wasn't really even a thing, so just being established, I think that we balance each other in a lot of ways. She's a much more reserved person than I am. I'm very like out there, like I'm going full force ahead. With
we need
everything.
Those people. We need balance.
Yeah, and she'd be like, "Hey, like let me, pull your coattail back a little bit, and kind of keep the balance, But yeah, man, 14 years, we've been rocking.
But congratulations. Yeah, I know we talked about this on your show, but showing up in a corporate environment, showing up as your authentic self. How has it been in your career in walking in your truth?
My career, I think it's been interesting.
Finance,
I'm in finance, yeah. So yeah, I'm in corporate finance by day, Queerly Blax by night. I in other endeavors that I do outside of those 2 things, but my career, it's been kind of a journey of 2 things. One, just deciding to be open about my sexuality. I think when I say open, I mean I go into space and just as natural as somebody would say, yeah, me and my husband went to the mall this weekend, I say me and my wife went to the movies. I said just that naturally. I don't like my partner or my use all these other ancillary words. Like, no, me and my wife went to the movies. Me and my wife are going on vacation. I show up that way intentionally because I think that we have to normalize that language. I think as we as queer people get more comfortable with ourselves, we have to get comfortable with the language that goes along with it too. And we have to make that a thing because people are only going to be comfortable with us to the extent that we're comfortable with ourselves. So for me, there was the dressing because I was very much a skirt suit, stockings, weave. Yes, man. One day I have to show pictures of me.
Pictures.
I had listen. I was a full weave. I had the bang. Y'all was lit out here. You know what I'm saying?
Not
the bayang. Yes, the bayang. I was lit out here. My wife loves to talk about how I used to look. I'd be like, yo, like you gotta chill. Like, you gotta chill about how I used to look.
You wouldn't catch me with outside of a dress. Like, that was just so much easier, especially as my hips started to spread.
Listen,
it was
okay.
Easier
the skirts
to be
is
in
really
a dress.
where it's
but
at.
now I'm like, I don't even feel the same in dresses anymore. I don't know what to do with these dresses in my closet. Can't tell you the last time I wore one. Like,
me either. I think
it feels so weird.
Definitely. So it was the transition of like the clothing, and going from, the dresses and the suits and just that corporate culture that was like ingrained, the old school corporate culture that I had ingrained in my mind. And then transitioning into like, okay, the chino pants and the loafers with the polo shirt, like, that wave. And then it was my hair like cutting my hair off and like just being comfortable with that. So there was that transition, and then there was a transition of the language of just like, I'm just gonna talk as naturally as anybody else would talk about their person. And I don't think that I've had, at least to my face, any issues with that. I think it's if it happened, if there was any type of microaggression against that, it wasn't in front of me. So I haven't had any challenges, but I've also walked in a lot of confidence with it. Even if I didn't have the confidence in those moments, I walked in it. And so I think that when you walk in that, you know, it's really hard for people to come up against that, because they're like, oh yeah, like, nah, she cool with what she got going on. So like, you know, what we questioning that for? So I haven't had any challenges. I'm extremely hardworking, and have allowed my work to be the reason.
Work speaks for
itself. Let the work speak.
Okay?
I think when, you know, it ain't about the blackness or anything when it comes to the pen on paper and my work product. You know, it's about me showing up and doing the job. You know, and so I think that has been the highlight of my corporate career, in itself. You know, so
I'm so glad you talked about the language, because confession time, I really struggle with that. Like, this relationship is the longest relationship I've been in, almost 3 years. You know, sometimes I call her my girlfriend, sometimes she's my partner, but you know, one day she might, you know, she's gonna be my wife, you know. And it's like, okay, I'm learning this language and to be okay with it, because there's still a part of me where I feel like the hair stand up on my back, because I'm remembering Sunday school, and I'm remembering Bible study, and I'm remembering all the programming that told me I wasn't enough, or that who I wasn't accepted. So I feel like in a lot of ways, as queer people, we're kind of always coming out. Like we're coming in, or coming into ourselves, spiritually, physically, financially. Like, it's a process. It's a process.
Yeah, 100%. I think I want to also mention, just with the language and just in general, I want to definitely talk about the fact that like your safety is number one, you know, and I think that that's something that, especially with Black men, which I know some you've been highlighting, your safety is the number one priority, right? Like, you can't, sometimes it is hard to go in certain spaces and be your full self, because you're a fear of your safety, you know, and in those situations,
you got to be mindful.
Right, you got to be understanding and recognize where you are, recognize, you know, who's around you, especially now with, you know, all these targeted things that are happening around, you know, queerness, Blackness, minorities in general. You definitely got to monitor your safety first, you know. So if you're in a space where your full self might get you killed, you got to do what you have to do, right? I definitely think that that's priority, right? Like, come home, you know, like dealing with the police. Like, look, if you was right or wrong, I just want you to come home, you know. And so I think with queerness, it's the same thing. If there's a space where you feel like your safety might be threatened, you got to do what you got to do to get home. You know, you got to just keep yourself safe. So in those spaces, do what you got to do. But in other spaces where, you know, it's just our own fear that's getting in the way, I think, you know, I do think that we carry that mantle of pushing that language forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a special message to our queer family, especially Black trans women. Like, we love you. We're holding space 100%. For you. I'm also holding space for Black men this season on The Purpose Producer, and I'm celebrating Black boy joy. So I'm talking to them about how they define joy, how they cultivate joy, and how they spread joy. What does it mean to you to see a Black man, even your son, operate in his joy and Black boy joy? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's amazing, to be honest. I think I don't have a lot of experience with men, and in a lot of, like, in many different facets. I was raised by a lot of, you know, I was raised with, you know, my father and mother in that regard. But I think that in terms of like family, there was just a lot of strong Black women, right? And so I think coming into adulthood and having Black male friends and seeing how that functions outside of the family dynamic, it's amazing. I think it's super, my heart honestly goes out to Black men a lot of the time, because I think that there's just not space for them to truly be their full selves, you know, to be vulnerable, to be, you know, fearful, to have doubt. You know, they have to show up in such a way that can be pretty volatile. So whenever I have the opportunity to see a Black man, you know, shining and happy and in his full self and in his glory, it's amazing. You know, it's truly amazing, because they definitely have, you know, a tall order to fill in this world.
Like it's something so special about seeing a Black man smile. That's kind of how
Yeah.
this whole series was inspired. I saw this little boy reacted to his mom in her wedding dress, and it was
Yeah, I
just the
love that
two of
clip.
them. 8 million
Mm-hmm.
views on TikTok. Had the
Mm-hmm.
whole family on the show, and I was like, "Wow, this is so beautiful." Seeing a Black boy's joy in the media. I was like,
Yeah.
they don't show us this part
No.
unless you're hosting a show or you've been embraced by Hollywood in some way. It's not something. It's not a common image that we see. So yeah,
True.
shout out to Black men,
Yeah,
shout
shout out
out
to
to the
Black men.
the
All the
queer
Black men.
community.
Yeah.
Ashley, thank you so much for being on the show today.
For
I just
sure.
wonder if you have any words of encouragement, words of advice to the queer people listening to this show right now that maybe haven't come into themselves yet. They're trying to figure it out. What words of advice do you have to them?
Yeah, my first word of advice is no pressure. No pressure. Like,
That's
I don't
good.
know
That's
where this
good.
pressure is coming from for you, but it's no pressure. Like, I know a lot of people say, get comfortable with just do, figure it. Like, no, like it's no pressure, man. Like the world is hard. You know what I'm saying? Like the just like a super brief kind of summary of like how I think about this being Black and queer. We
Come on,
don't
Black
come
queer
from
theory.
money, right? Like we don't come from money. So when we're forming our thought, when we're forming ourselves, the first thing that we're thinking about is like, okay, I got to get a job and feed myself, right? Like a lot of us come from, whether it's a single parent home or a low income house, whatever. We can't think about and unpack sexuality at 5, 7, 10, 11 like other people potentially can, right? We got to put that on the back burner because my mama need me to watch these kids while she go to work. I ain't got time
Take
to
that
sit
meat
down.
out the freezer.
You know what I'm take that meat out the freezer, put it in and you better have remembered to put it in there so it could be thawed out by the time she get home, right? Like we gotta, we 10, 11 years old getting a key to the house and you better go in there, don't answer the door, don't answer the phone for nobody. I'ma knock a certain way so it's me, right? We coming into survival at a very, very young age. We don't got time to unpack sexuality until we have gone to college, gotten a job, got safety, got to make sure the lights on and the cable is on every month, and then we can sit down in our very warm house, our very warm apartment, and say, "Oh, you know what? I think I like girls." At 25,
I think I want to be myself.
I think I want to be my. I think I want
Whoever
to
that
tap into.
is.
I think I want to explore my full self.
Yeah.
And so I think that the pressure it's no pressure. Like we have a different journey. It looks different for us. Like we gotta stop feeling like we have to have it all figured out because it's just the truth is you just don't. And so take your time. Like sit with yourself. Like explore yourself. Figure out what because you don't know. And when you figure it out, go forth with that, and you can change your mind. If you like, you know what, I really, really do like these women, and then you decide, you know what, actually, I think I don't. It's okay. It's okay as long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as you're not sleeping with 5, 6, 7 people, and potentially passing stuff around, or deceiving people, lying.
Yeah.
Be safe always, but no pressure. Figure yourself out. Live. Leslie Jones tells this joke, and she was like, "Man, y'all 20-year-olds don't live. When I was 20, I didn't have no clothes on, right?" Like, and what she means is, I was living. I wasn't like in my head trying to like dissect and unpack, and like I was living my life so that when I was 30, 40, I'm like, oh yeah, I know myself because I done lived. You gotta live, and it's just no pressure, man. That's my message. No pressure.
You gotta live. It's no pressure. All right. Wise words from Miss Ashley Harris. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Y'all check out her show, Queerly Black. All right. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Yeah.